On November 7, 2006, Santa Cruz voters passed Measure K, an ordinance that deprioritized private marijuana use, practically making consumption, distribution, and growing legal. Although the measure was passed with over 60% approval, it remains a controversial issue among the city, the police, and the citizens. Santa Cruz police remain hesitant about the measure since it directly contradicts state and federal law. City Attorney John Barrisoni has been noticing the problems with the measure since it was placed on the ballot.
Well, essentially, the problem is that state law primarily vests all peace officers in California with the discretion and the authority to enforce state criminal statutes, including the marijuana statutes. And what this law does, this ordinance, is it circumscribes that discretion. Well, technically, there's no criminal prosecution under the ordinance. The remedy is that a citizen who believes that the police department or certain police officers are not making it their lowest law enforcement priority can go into court and ask for a court order directing the police department to change their practices to bring them into compliance with the ordinance.
Not only are the police hesitant about upholding the ordinance, they are also worried that it may bring in outside users and dealers into Santa Cruz.
One of the concerns is that what we've done is we've created essentially an island in a larger geographical area where it's the likelihood of being cited or arrested for growing marijuana, selling marijuana, or consuming marijuana has been reduced dramatically in comparison to the other surrounding jurisdictions. If, for example, people know that they can use their private property for growing and selling marijuana with little likelihood that there's law enforcement consequences for doing that, there is, at least in theory, the probability that there will be a lot more of that activity in the city of Santa Cruz than surrounding areas, and will be sort of a magnet jurisdiction for that type of activity. And oftentimes that type of activity, where it's well known, that creates secondary effects.
The measure was supported by the Santa Cruz Citizens for Sensible Marijuana Campaign Committee, which collected over 3,000 signatures and worked to gain support from the Santa Cruz citizens. The committee based the measure on similar ordinances in cities like Oakland, Seattle, and Colorado. By deprioritizing marijuana, the committee hopes to reduce the nearly 300 arrests made last year in Santa Cruz for private marijuana use and focus police attention on violent crimes around the area. Adam King, a medical marijuana patient in Santa Cruz, sees the measure as a progressive step for the city.
I think that the city has taken a good step forward. However, it's very unclear as to how much influence the measure will have, because a city ordinance like the one that was just passed only affects city authorities. It doesn't affect the county. It doesn't affect, state officials. For example, if you were, smoking in your house and you were found out by the Santa Cruz police, nothing would happen. But if you were smoking in your house and you were found out by the county sheriff, you would still face the same criminal action. Personally, I believe that the measure doesn't really change a whole lot in terms of how law enforcement treats medical marijuana users and marijuana users in general. I think that the measure is a good first step into legalization across the state or across the county or even across the nation. These kinds of measures have just gained more and more popularity with the voters in California, and I really think that's just a great step forward for California. We spend a lot of money on caring for prisoners of drug charges, and it's astronomical the amount of money we can save if this was put just in a lower register, if this wasn't such a priority.
Measure K will go into full effect this March with the completion of the Oversight Committee, but Santa Cruz police have already begun to abide by this new ordinance. This is Cristina Bishai reporting for Banana Slug News. Back to you in the studio.